Dashes are displayed on a DBI, and the ND indicating that the system is operational but is not receiving any pulses from the station. The DME readouts on the NDs and DBIs are numbered DME 1 and 2. The readout on the ND is green for VOR co-located DME stations and magenta for stations belonging to an ILS. Also at standby, the station identifier can be received using the Audio Selector Panel ASP. This will be covered later. Once the warm-up is completed, the DME system is operational and automatically enters a search mode in which reply pulses from the tuned station are searched as soon as the system is switched on. Dashes are still shown. When contact with the ground station is established, slant range is indicated on the ND and DBIs. When the rotary selector is set to hold, the active DME station is retained by the DME system and displayed in the lower half of the VHF Nav controller frequency window marked HLD. A yellow H right of the DME display on the ND indicates that a DME frequency is on hold. If a VOR or localizer is displayed as second course and the cross-side DME system has a station in hold, a white H is displayed next to the cyan second course source information. Subsequent frequency selections tune directly an active VOR or ILS frequency. Note that in this case the DME reading does not belong to the station to which the bearing pointer and CDI are referring. When using a VOR, ILS, or DME as a primary navigation source, its identification must be confirmed before use. Each pilot's audio selector panel has an ILS, a DME, a VOR, and a marker rotational push button. Pushing the button in enables the audio system to broadcast the station Morse code via the pilot's headset or speaker. Rotating the button towards 1 or 2 increases the volume of the respective signal, either for System 1 or System 2. The voice button filters out the Morse code for the VORs and ADFs when pressed and is used when an ATIS or similar is broadcast on the station frequency.
Hamburg Airport Information Guide.
A red test button on each VHF nav controller must be pressed and held to enable a test pattern. On the captain's controller, VOR1, DME1, and the marker system are tested with a VOR frequency set, and ILS1 and DME1 are tested with an ILS frequency set. For the first officer's controller, it is basically the same, but the marker system cannot be tested from that side. Note that this test is not prescribed by the manufacturer during the flight deck safety checks. With failure of a VOR receiver or a VHF nav controller, the following failure indications are displayed. A red VOR flag at the bottom of the PFD and at the top right of the ND. Deviation bar and scale is removed to avoid nuisance indications. The VOR bearing pointer is removed and VOR in red displayed at the lower left corner of the ND. At the DBI, a red pointer flag is displayed if the failed VOR system is selected and the relevant pointer is parked at the 3 o'clock position. These fail annunciations are only displayed if the failed VOR system was selected to display information on the PFDs, ND, or DBIs. With failure of an ILS receiver or a VHF nav controller, the following failure indications are displayed. Red LOC and GS flags at the PFD and ND. And deviation bar and scale is removed from the ND to avoid nuisance indications. At the standby attitude indicator, red LOC and GS flags are displayed. These fail annunciations are only displayed if the failed ILS system was selected to display information on the PFD, ND, and standby attitude indicator. If a DME interrogator fails, the relevant DME displays on the ND and DBIs turn blank. If a VOR or localizer associated with the failed DME is displayed as second course on the ND, a white advisory D is shown next to the cyan second course source indication. The VPU within the GNS-X or GNLU 910 will be degraded. There is no failure indication in the event of a marker system loss. If electrical power is reduced to the emergency power level, the system is degraded to Captain's VHF nav controller, ILS deviation bars in the standby attitude indicator, and VOR bearing pointer number 1 in the Captain's DBI. Congratulations, you have now completed this module.